Hey everyone, Sergeant Eaters here with the Wyoming National Guard Counter Drug Program. Today, we're going to be talking about environmental strategies. If you can and have time, get in the comments, let us know about the different things you're participating in related to environmental strategies. This is what Perplexity gave us. So, according to Perplexity, the common environmental strategies that are evidenced, proven, based off of p values are, for one, drug take-back days, and permanent disposal sites. Now, these are super important because, as I've alluded to in other videos and talked about, 70% of people who start substance misuse problems start from a friend or family member's medicine cabinet. So to get rid of those drugs that aren't being used is super, super important. What Perplexity says about this program is these programs help communities safely dispose of unused medications, especially prescription drugs, reducing their availability for misuse and preventing accidental poisonings or environmental contamination. And that's super important because you can't just take these drugs and throw them down the drain. There are huge environmental repercussions to these if everyone was to just flush their drugs. Another example that I have would be doTERRA bags. These are something that the Healthy Park County group gives out to help dispose of drugs. You can put the pills in there, add water, and it gets rid of them safely, and then this just goes into the trash. Another environmental strategy that we have is advertising restrictions. So this is limiting the advertising of alcohol, tobacco, and drugs, helps lower exposure and appeal, particularly among the youth. Access control and availability controls are also huge environmental strategies. So related to access and availability controls. Now, that's changing hours or days of sale, enforcing compliance checks, and limiting the density of alcohol and tobacco or other drug outlets that can reduce underage and excessive use. Now, that being said, this is where it gets really political because, again, we want to have promotion of businesses and entrepreneurship, but you do have to limit these things at a point as well. So again, like I said, can get very political with this, but that is related to environmental strategy and has been one that's been proven to lower the substance use of youth. That being said, you're going to have to be involved with politics in order to implement that type of strategy. So related to policy changes, like I said, it's very political. You're going to have to work on the capacity of the whole community wanting to change and have it to where there are no host laws in place. Plus, if you're going to be training retail outlets in responsible beverage service, that's potentially an extra cost to the business that they don't necessarily want to pay or don't feel the need to pay. So it might be something they have to work on with the community to get to them for free or potentially sway and make sure that they have the capacity and are willing to change as well. Another one Perplexity gives, which I have mixed feelings about, is physical environment improvements. Now, I'm not saying these don't work. What that is enhancing lighting in public parks, redesigning playgrounds, and adding outdoor gym equipment, discouraging places where drug use or sales may occur and promote healthy behaviors. Now, related to this physical environment improvements, we've talked about how in criminology there was a park where, for example, people came in and said, oh, the park is dark, people can go walk around without any surveillance or supervision, and there's kids dealing drugs. So we heard about this community that they ended up saying, oh, we just need to add lights to the community so that way no one's in the park selling drugs. But you got to remember, for every action there's a reaction, and if there's kids selling, using drugs outside in the park, if they're forced to find somewhere else, and that might potentially be their home, then they might be doing it in front of their younger siblings, which would then increase their risk factor and potentially promote drug use to them. So this one, yes, but also you got to be aware of what the repercussions could potentially be. And lastly, for the final environmental strategy Perplexity gave us, community-wide interventions. So this is mobilizing communities to change norms, enforce stricter policies at local events, and promote safe disposal and management of substances. Examples of this include communities mobilizing for change on alcohol and Operation Safe Crossing. I have not looked into either of those. Obviously, Perplexity did the research here for me. That being said, there is something going on with community wide interventions related to this Icelandic model. If you look that up, basically what happened in that is Iceland, being related to European countries, had the drinking age lower than 21. So their beginning youth age of starting alcohol use was way lower than what America's was. Anyway, what Iceland did was they created a norming campaign, or basically got behind the community to enforce that you shouldn't drink until you are older. And it took 20 years, but they were able to reduce their first time substance use among minors from 77% to like 33% or something, which is a huge swing from 77% using to only 33% using now. That again took a long time, but there is something to community wide interventions as well. Finally, why do these strategies work? So, what Perplexity is telling me is environmental prevention works because it alters the broader context, making risky behaviors less convenient, less attractive, and less socially acceptable, while emphasizing protective community standards and easier, healthy choices, which does make sense. The better we've seen the environments, for example, Rat Park, the better that that population has done as far as substance use. Drug take back events, for example, minimize prescription drug misuse, accidental poisoning, and environmental harm by making disposal simple and accessible for everyone, not just those actively seeking prevention resources. Now, I highly recommend that you participate in your Drug Take Back Day. We've been working with the DEA and basically all of the 23 counties and agencies among those 23 counties for the past couple of years. And just in the spring this last year, I think we brought over 1,600 pounds of pills back to the DEA from Take Back Day. So it's a huge thing, super important. Get drop boxes where you can with law enforcement and help DEA recoup those pills. They talked about canceling it for a while. Turns out it's back on, at least as of now, September 23rd, 2025. That being said, figure out a way to make sure that that continues to happen, whether DEA does it or not. Get those pills off the street. So, that being said, environmental strategies are super important, especially when combined with individual level prevention strategies. That's going to lead to an overall societal, hopefully, use of less substances and prolonging at least that first time use. So that way people aren't getting down the path and using more hard, if you will, substances. Like, subscribe, share. Let's hear about the good things that you guys are doing out there. I'd love to hear it. Love to have open discussion and dialogue with you on what's working, what isn't, and maybe improvements that you have on any of the things we talked about. Until then, we'll see you next time.